What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with my review and impressions video of No Man's Sky, which of course released a little bit earlier this week. Now, I wanted to take some time and just play through the game before I came out with my thoughts, because this is a game you really do have to spend quite a bit of time in before you can kind of get a feel for what it offers. So I know a lot of people are jumping out Tuesday and Wednesday with their reviews. I think that's a little too early to kind of get thoughts out, but I wanted to wait a while, like I said, to kind of get a real good feel for the game. Now, I'm going to start by saying that No Man's Sky is not a game for everyone. That's rather evident right from the start. It's a game a lot of people are enjoying. It's a game a lot of people don't particularly care for. It's kind of interesting to watch the reviews going on right now. If you look at Metacritic, which isn't always the greatest measure of things, it's actually got a 5.0 rating between users. It's got like 1,000 some positive, 1,000 some negative, and a little bit in the middle. The critic rating is around a 70, which I think is fair, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. The PC version is really struggling right now because it's got a lot of problems and bugs that Hello Games is trying to fix, but if you look at the user rating for the PC right now, it's like a 2.9. It's really bad. But that's mainly just because the game is really buggy on PC. They're having a lot of problems with the port over, which kind of surprises me because from my play on the console, this feels like a game that would be much better suited for PC play. So that's kind of weird. But anyways, I'm going to get into it now. Like I said, I do enjoy No Man's Sky, but the game does have a lot of things that I don't particularly care for. So I'm going to kind of highlight what I liked, what I don't like, kind of give my final thoughts towards the end. But like I said, it's not a game for everybody, and it can get very boring and repetitive at times. So, if you haven't gotten into the game, if you haven't played the game, just keep that in mind. So, No Man's Sky basically is a exploration survival game, I suppose you would call it, though it doesn't do either particularly well in my personal opinion. The exploration in the game is actually fun and relaxing for me at times. I will say that much. This is a game that I like to sit down after I've had a long day and just sit down with a drink and play for like an hour or two and just kind of get lost in the universe and go around and explore things. It's very relaxing. It's got a really great soundtrack that kind of adds to the atmosphere, and it's really helpful. Beyond that, though, I can't really play this game for too long because I get really bored of it because it's very repetitive. You keep doing the same stuff over and over again. But I like the atmosphere. It really does, like I said, have solid music. It nails the whole Lonely Explorer vibe that they were going for. There is really no multiplayer here. You're not going to be running into anybody else for the most part. Apparently there's a feature that they say you can see other players, but it's not working right now. I know Hello Games has been catching a lot of flack this week over the whole lied about multiplayer thing. I'm not going to really get into that because I really don't care, honestly. This is not a game that people really should have expected any kind of grandiose multiplayer in, but I know in several interviews they made comments about how you could run into people and even steal their ships and their inventory. But there's a lot of stuff that actually didn't make it into the game that they talked about early on in interviews. It's like the ability to call your ship to you when you're exploring planets, for one. There's a lot of stuff they didn't put into the final version, but that's neither here nor there. So, like I said, it's a great game to kind of just spend an hour or two and relax. It's a good change of pace from some of the more fast-paced shooters and things like that. So if you're someone that's looking for something in particular, that may be right up your alley. The being able to name the planets and the discoveries, I think, is pretty cool. It's kind of fun to find stuff on the planets and even name the planets. I've been naming most of mine after sci-fi and video game planets. Like I named one Zebus and Klendathu from Starship Troopers, and LV-426, of course, from Aliens. So I've been going around and just naming a lot of stuff after like Mass Effect and Alien series and other video games and things. So that's been pretty cool. Finding the creatures is kind of neat the first couple of times. You land on a planet that's got a lot of life on it. It's kind of fun to go around and find the different creatures and see how unique they are. I'm still trying to look around and find some giant monster. I'm wondering if they hid something like Godzilla or the Cloverfield monster in one of these planets, or underwater there's some giant sea monster or something. But I haven't come across really anything all that amazing other than just some dinosaurs that I found on one planet. Now, I will say that the planet exploration and finding good planets, for the most part, I've had kind of a touch-and-go experience with that. I've probably done about 12 planets so far, and I'd say about 85% of them have just been barren, lifeless rocks with a blue or green sky, and it's just been the same thing over and over again. But what the interesting thing about that is when you find you finally do find a good planet that's got life and, you know, tropical setting and trees and water and stuff, it makes that experience stand out a lot more. It makes it a lot more enjoyable, but you do have to suffer through a bit of a slog before you get to that, at least in my opinion, and that's been my experience so far. Is I've just not really found too many unique planets so far. It's just mostly barren, rocky surfaces and mountains, and, you know, the same kind of minerals over and over and over again. But, you know, overall, like I said, it's pretty cool to fly around the galaxy and find a unique planet now and then. That's really when No Man's Sky is going to stand out for you, is after you get kind of tired of over and over and over again, you keep finding these barren rocks, and then you finally land on a cool planet, and you just kind of want to stay there the whole time and go around and find everything. So that creates kind of a unique experience there. Now I'm going to get into kind of some of the stuff here that, you know, kind of rubs me the wrong way about this game. Like I said, I do enjoy the game, you know, just for a little bit, but the control system, number one, is not very good. That's why I thought this game would play a lot better on PC, because it doesn't really seem well suited for a console. First off, the button layout they've set up for this, the sprint location, the control system overall is not great. And the other problem is you cannot change the controls. You cannot change your controller mapping, at least as far as I know. I've not been able to find any option for that. The only thing you can do is change your sensitivity and go to inverted controls, which is very helpful for space combat, but you know, on the ground, not being able to change the layout of any of the controller is a very basic feature most games have, and something I expect in a $60 game, and we don't have it here, which is really frustrating. But I figured on the PC version that it'd be a little easier to control. So if you guys play on PC and you're able to use a keyboard and mouse a little easier, let me know, because that'd be some good information. You'll really notice this especially in the space combat. I was surprised at how clunky and slow the controls felt. Overall, I just did not have a positive experience flying the ship around, and, you know, I was expecting something, you know, decent, at least on the level of like an N64 Rogue Squadron. You know, it is 2016, and I'm not expecting Ace Combat type maneuvering, but I was hoping for something a little bit better than like old school Nintendo trying to land the Tomcat on the carrier in Top Gun, you know, control system. But overall, the controls are not very good, and that can definitely hurt your experience right from the get-go. Not being able to customize those controls in any way is a big mistake, I think, on Hello Games' part. Maybe it's something they can patch in later, but I don't know. Right now, it's really, really bad. And like I said, I think it would be better with mouse and keyboard, but I could be mistaken. So any of you PC guys that are playing the game, let me know. So overall, combat feels really clunky and cumbersome. Movement feels really clunky and cumbersome. And overall, it's just not really good. The other thing, too, is this is something you notice really early on in the game, is your inventory management and the overall focus on the survival in No Man's Sky. I'm going to compare this a little bit to the Solus Project, because that's a game I played quite a bit and really, really liked, and it is a more of a straight-up survival game versus No Man's Sky, which kind of tries to mix everything in. Number one, your inventory space is very limited. You don't have a whole lot of room to carry stuff. You can find extra slots to, you know, put more stuff in your inventory, but those you have to explore and find, and even then, it still doesn't give you a whole lot. I was kind of joking around on Twitter the first couple days playing the game that they should just rename it Inventory Full, because I keep getting that message like every 3 minutes when I'm exploring a planet. And, you know, the best thing was I finally found a good planet. I found a big cave full of all these resources that were worth a lot of credits, and unfortunately, I could only carry like 2 of them at a time. And I didn't have enough room to get more and take them to the place to exchange them on the Galactic Trade Market and get more money. So that was really kind of annoying. And another annoying feature I'll mention real quick here is there's no waypoint system when you're on a planet. You can't pull up a map. You can't mark places you've been. At least as far as I know. Again, if these options are there and you guys have found them, please let me know. But I've looked high and low, and I cannot find anything to kind of help me navigate other than you can set waypoints in the galaxy map when you want to warp to a planet, but for the most part, when you're on an actual planet, there's no map and no way to actually mark something. So it would have been kind of cool to mark that cave with a waypoint and be able to come back later and get the rest of those minerals I couldn't pick up, but was unable to do that. So the inventory system is a mess. It's really not good, especially early on when you're trying to fix your ship the first few hours of the game. It makes it really tedious and unenjoyable having to delete stuff. And they do have a feature where you can transfer inventory to your ship that you find on foot, but half the time you're out of range of your ship walking around. You can't send it over, so you have to sit there and figure out, well, should I delete this item I have in my inventory to make room for this other item? And overall, it's just you're spending more time managing your inventory than you are actually exploring the planet. It really kind of put me off. It really made it unenjoyable for me with that. And then with the survival, You know, the thing is, if I really want to play a survival game, I'll go play something like the Solus Project. I'll go play something like Alien Isolation, a game that just does survival very well. Whereas with this game, the survival's there, but in my opinion, it's a little bit half-assed. It's kind of like, well, you've got this life meter and you've got this hazard meter, depending on the planet, if you're on radiation or heat or cold or whatever it is. And basically those meters will drop depending on the conditions on the planet. If it's like a low gravity or a planet with high gravity, they can affect your life support differently. But really all you have to do is have the right mineral to recharge your life support, and you're really in no danger. It's really hard to die. I actually got the one planet that had a constant heat storm, and all I had to do was like run over to a pile of iron and mine it every 5 minutes or so and recharge my suit. I never felt like I was in any danger. The survival, if anything, having to, again, manage the inventory and recharge your suit and recharge your hazard stuff. Again, it just takes away from the exploration for me. You're spending so much time in the inventory trying to move things around and make sure you have enough of the right stuff in case your life support goes down. And it really just, the survival feels almost like a tacked on element here. I know the game was going to have a survival focus on it, just going from all the interviews and following the game since it was first announced. But I thought No Man's Sky was going to be more about the exploration aspect of things. And so, unfortunately, the kind of crappy survival stuff, the elements they have, takes a little bit away from that survival, especially for me. Now, you may not feel that way, and that's okay. But just in my opinion, that kind of ruined the exploration for me. Constantly having to stop and find stuff and, you know, manage the inventory or run back to a place where I could trade some things to make some room. And then having to have the whole life support at 50% or 25% popping up every 2 to 3 minutes. Again, it's just really annoying with all the notifications that keep popping up on your screen, and you have to kind of manage that. Just really aggravating. Like I said, there are other games that do a much better job of the survival aspects and in No Man's Sky, it just feels like it's just kind of tacked on. It doesn't feel like you're ever in any danger. So that's one thing you may want to consider if you're thinking about picking up this game. The environments themselves, the planets, you know, it's all in their algorithm. It generates, they say it's all procedural, and they generate all this stuff. That's true for the most part, but I do find myself seeing a lot of repetitive things, especially with the creatures. You see that it's basically they just take the same creature and reconfigure it. Like it has different legs or different eyes, but you'll see a lot of the same variations. The planets themselves, most of the time I've gotten on a planet, they're so dark you can't really tell any difference. You'll have like a green sky or a blue sky or a red sky, and then it's just this dark, barren planet for the most part. The planets I've landed on that have been kind of tropical and had more animals and things have felt kind of neat, but after you see 3 or 4 of them, you're kind of like, okay, it's just a different variation. You know, it's kind of neat at first, but after a couple of hours, like I said, for the most part with No Man's Sky, it kind of gets repetitive. And the environment to me doesn't feel that immersive. The graphics are not that great. They're okay, but you are going to see a lot of screen tearing, and I think it's only like 30 frames per second. And again, it's 2016. This is a $60 title from an indie developer, which is kind of crazy. But the graphics, I think, should be a little bit better. You know, I'm not one to really complain about graphics a lot. I know people don't like, oh, you can't complain about graphics. But again, it's 2016. They've got pretty solid hardware on the consoles, and especially with PC. But I'm hearing a lot of graphic problems with even the PC versions. People with pretty high-range graphics cards who can't even get the game to work. So they're having a lot of problems with PC right now. But overall, I think the graphics kind of remind me of like Mass Effect, or the first Mass Effect when you're driving around in the Mako. It's like it's an old game. It looks like an older game, but you know the environments themselves don't feel that immersive to me. Like when I play again, comparing to Solus Project, and I posted that video where I ran into that tornado. You know, it all just pulled me into the game. It felt so immersive and so intense, and that's something that No Man's Sky doesn't really have. Like I said, and that's one of the reasons why I think the survival feels kind of half-assed and tacked on. It's a game where it's going to be a little bit more easy and relaxing, I guess. So that's the thing. Just the environment gets repetitive. The creatures get repetitive. I have not found the alien races to be all that interesting. They all seem very cliched. You got your machine race. You got your lizard man race. There's really no narrative in No Man's Sky. There's a little bit of lore, but you've got to really search far and wide to find the lore aspect of the game. There's really no story or no narrative behind it. So again, this is a game where you're basically just going to be mainly focusing on exploring and getting to the center of the galaxy in a rather repetitive process. So if that's not something for you, and I know that's definitely not for everybody, it's one of the reasons I think the game's getting a lot of negative reviews and things, then you probably want to stay away from No Man's Sky. I don't feel like this is really a $60 title. I think this would have been a game better priced in the $35 to $40 range, and it will probably come down a little bit in price. Actually, I've already seen online specials for like $47. I don't feel like you get a full, overall experience for the $60 you pay. Now, there's plenty of content. There's tons of content. There's tons of stuff to play here. There's a lot of places to find and discover. But overall, I just don't feel like this is a $60 title at all. So again, if you guys are budget conscious, you might want to wait till there's a sale, wait till the game comes down in price a little bit. But, overall, it's just, after all the hype, especially with No Man's Sky, I don't think, and I've said many times, I don't think this game was ever going to deliver on even half the hype that it had. I'm not sure where all that hype even came from, considering it's an indie developer. Maybe just Sony pushing the game so much. Hello Games, to their credit, I think did a pretty good job. They put out a pretty decent game. It is what it is. It's an exploration game. Even though, like I said, I think it's a kind of a jack of all trades, master of none type game. It does not do, it does a few things well, but overall it doesn't do anything really great. It's not a bad game. It's not a great game. It's kind of a middle of the road game, and that's why I think, those ratings of like the 70 critic rating on Metacritic is actually pretty fair. I think this is about a 7. If I was going to rate the game, I'd probably say 7 or 7.5 out of 10. I don't like to do number ratings because I think they kind of limit you, but that's about what I would give it. It's a game I definitely can enjoy for a couple hours a night and just kind of sit down and chill out. But it's not a game I see myself playing for a long period of time. And when something like Mass Effect Andromeda probably comes out, I probably won't touch No Man's Sky again. But it's neither here nor there. But the good news is this game definitely has potential. It's definitely got a nice base for it. And Sean Murray and Hello Games have already said there's going to be DLC, there's going to be patches, there's going to be updates. And from what I was reading on their website, apparently they're going to try to make everything free. So that's pretty cool. And I think they have a lot of potential here. I don't think they delivered on a lot, but I think they have a lot of potential to make this a much better game. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. So again, just to kind of go over, the game to me is just kind of like a lot of its reviews. The highs in the game are really, really high when you have that great experience. You finally find that really good planet. It makes you feel really good. You have a good time. But the lows are also really low. When most of the time you're going to be doing the same thing over and over again. You're going to be on the same looking environment, same looking space. You're going to find the same buildings over and over again, the same type of minerals over and over and over again, similar creatures over and over and over again. So it's very repetitive. Some people like that. Some people don't. I can only take it for a short period of time. Like I said, pretty good game, but not for everybody. You're going to have to temper your expectations a little bit if you were expecting this massive, narrative, immersive, story type, driven type experience, because that's not what they said No Man's Sky was, and it's definitely not what's in the game. So that's pretty much it, guys. Definitely let me know down below what you guys think about No Man's Sky, if you're playing the game, if you've been enjoying No Man's Sky. Like I said, I'm still going to play the game. I'll still probably post some gameplays. I got a bunch of gameplay up on the channel of the game so far, if you want to check it out and watch me run around and do the same thing over and over again for a while. But again, I think it's a decent overall game. Not great, not bad. Does some things well, but doesn't do anything in particular all that great. So, take it or leave it. And again, let me know below if you guys have been playing No Man's Sky, what your thoughts and opinions are on it. Again, like I said, if you like the game, great. If you love the game, that's great. But if you don't like the game, that's cool too. I can definitely see with No Man's Sky where there's going to be a little bit of a divide between players in terms of what they like here. But for me, it's just the constant struggle with the inventory management and the kind of tacked on survival just kind of ruins it after a while. But overall, not a decent game that I can sit down and play for an hour or two and enjoy. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.